It was a Tuesday evening, and the rain tapped softly against the window. The room was dimly lit, the glow of a laptop screen casting shadows on the walls. Papers were scattered across the desk, notes scribbled in haste, and a half-empty coffee cup sat precariously close to the edge. The clock ticked louder than usual, each second echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. The thoughts came like they always did, swarming, relentless, and uninvited. What if I fail? What if they don't like it? What if I'm not good enough? The questions looped endlessly, a carousel of doubt spinning faster and faster. It wasn't just about the project anymore. It was about everything, the past, the future, the choices made and the ones yet to come. The weight of it all pressed down, suffocating. But then, a memory surfaced. A conversation from years ago, almost forgotten. It was with an old professor, a man who always seemed unshakable, no matter the storm. He had said something that day, something simple yet profound. The mind is a river. You can't stop the flow, but you can choose which currents to follow. At the time, it had sounded like just another philosophical platitude. But now, in the midst of the chaos, it felt like a lifeline. The laptop was closed, the papers pushed aside. There was a book on the shelf, one that hadn't been touched in years. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age. It was a collection of Stoic teachings, a gift from the same professor. As the pages turned, the words seemed to leap off the paper. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It was as if the room itself had shifted. The rain outside faded into the background, the ticking clock no longer a threat. The thoughts were still there, but they felt different, distant, like clouds passing overhead. The key wasn't to silence them. It was to see them for what they were, just thoughts, not truths. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds. The desk was clean, the laptop open to a blank document. The first sentence appeared on the screen, then the next, and the next. The words flowed, not perfectly, but freely. The doubts tried to creep back in, but they were met with a new response. This is just a thought. It doesn't define me. Days turned into weeks, and the practice deepened. It wasn't about ignoring the thoughts or pretending they didn't exist. It was about observing them, acknowledging their presence, and then letting them go. The Stoics called it prosoke, attention, awareness, the art of being present. It wasn't easy, but it was simple. And it worked. Then came the test. A meeting, one that had been looming on the calendar for weeks. The stakes were high, the pressure even higher. The old fears tried to resurface, but they were met with a new resilience. I can't control the outcome, but I can control my focus. The presentation began, and the words came naturally. The room was silent, every eye fixed, every ear listening. When it was over, the applause was genuine, the feedback positive. But the real victory was internal. The overthinking hadn't won. That night, the rain returned, but it was different. The sound was soothing, a reminder of the rhythm of life. The laptop was closed, the desk tidy. The book sat on the shelf, its pages a little more worn than before. The thoughts still came, but they no longer ruled. They were just visitors, passing through. The days grew quieter, but not in a way that felt empty. It was a stillness that came from within, a calm that had been missing for years. The practice of Stoicism became a daily ritual, not out of obligation, but out of necessity. It was like building a muscle, one that grew stronger with each repetition. But life, as it always does, had other plans. A phone call came late one evening, the kind that changes everything in an instant. The voice on the other end was shaky, the words heavy with emotion. It's Dad. He's in the hospital. The room spun, the walls closing in. The thoughts returned, louder and more vicious than ever. What if it's serious? What if I'm not there in time? What if? The book was pulled from the shelf again, the pages flipped to a familiar passage. The obstacle is the way. The words were a lifeline, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was a path forward. The suitcase was packed in a hurry, the drive to the hospital a blur. The waiting room was cold, the chairs uncomfortable, the air thick with anxiety. Hours passed, each one feeling like an eternity. The thoughts tried to take over, but they were met with a new mantra. I can't control this, but I can control how I respond. It wasn't about suppressing the fear or pretending it didn't exist. It was about facing it head-on, without letting it dictate the next move. When the doctor finally appeared, the news was a mix of relief and uncertainty. He's stable, but it's going to be a long road. The words hung in the air, a reminder of the fragility of life. The days that followed were a whirlwind, doctor's appointments, treatment plans, sleepless nights. The old habits tried to creep back in, the overthinking threatening to take hold. But the Stoic principles held firm. Focus on what you can control. It became a mantra, a guiding light in the chaos. The small things, making sure Dad took his medication, keeping the house in order, finding moments of joy amidst the struggle. The big things, the prognosis, the future, were out of reach, and that was okay. The practice wasn't about having all the answers. It was about finding peace in the questions. Weeks turned into months, and the routine became a rhythm. The hospital visits, the therapy sessions, the quiet moments in between. The thoughts still came, but they were no longer the enemy. They were just thoughts, fleeting and impermanent. The real challenge was staying present,